Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, welcome to a new video. In today's video, we will be talking about the latest album from Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds titled Ghosteen. This is the 17th album from the band Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, and this is following up 2016's Skeleton Tree, and this is the final part of a trilogy that began with Push the Sky Away back in 2013. Ghosteen is also the first two-disc album from the band since 2004's Abattoir Blues / The Lyre of Orpheus. I can't really talk about Ghosteen without kind of diving into Skeleton Tree, which was a very heartbreaking album for Nick Cave because while he was recording this, he found out about his son's death. That album was despondent in its own right. It is a dark album, it's a desolate album, it's a very emotional album, it's profound. I think that Skeleton Tree represents death, and Ghosteen represents the afterlife. If Skeleton Tree had these very dark, despondent soundscapes that were very gritty, then Ghosteen has these very lush and ethereal soundscapes filled with ambient synthesizers and beautiful violin and string sections in general. A lot of what's on Ghosteen is hauntingly beautiful in its own right, and you can't talk about Nick Cave without talking about his songwriting. On nearly every track, you have Nick Cave writing very metaphoric lyrics that take a lot to kind of digest. A lot of the lyrics on this album deal with themes of death, themes of grief and loss, but they deal it in such a way that's uplifting in a sense. Having faith about the future, having optimism about moving past the grief that a person is feeling. And with lyrics come singing. And for the first time in a long time, you actually hear Nick Cave, his usual baritone kind of voice actually turns into a higher register falsetto for once. And you can hear the trembling in his voice on a good amount of songs. It's almost as he's about to break, but it adds such an emotional feeling to the song. This is one of the few albums where it's not rock oriented. It's more electronic, it's more ambient. A few of the tracks on here are spoken word, especially the song Fireflies, which fits snugly in between Ghosteen and Hollywood in the second disc of this album. But the rock part of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds is just completely gone. While there were aspects of electronic music on Skeleton Tree and probably prior albums to this, this is an album purely based around electronic sounds and synthesizer work. You start the album off with the song Spinning Song, which starts off with this very spacey synthesizer. Then you have Nick Cave speaking over this production, over this synthesizer, and then you're gonna get a little more to this song. You add a little more layers, you add more electronic work. There is a deafening tone of ambience to this album. It's more of an ambient pop record than it is just pure ambient. If I can give a representation of the music on this album, I would give you guys the album art. This is a great representation of what the album sounds like. You got the lion, you have a horse drinking some water, you have a goat, you have flamingos, you have a cheetah in the garden, and this beautiful tree that has a lot of flowers on it. Again, I'll say it. If Skeleton Tree represented death, this represents the afterlife. It's a beautiful array of bright colors and a serene background. And there's a theme to this album, I think. It's just in general forest, trees, maybe in general just nature. Nature as a whole, not just the forest, not just the animals, but nature. A lot of metaphors are on each and every song. I mean, let me just read a couple of the lyrics here. Bright horses have broken free from the fields. They are horses of love, their manes full of fire. They are parting the cities, those bright, burning horses, and everyone is hiding and no one makes a sound. All through the night we drove and the wind caught her hair, and we parked on the beach in the cool evening air. Well, sometimes it's better not to say anything at all. Your body is an anchor, never asked to be free. You were a runaway flake of snow. You were skinny and white as a wafer. Yeah, I know. I lay in the forest amongst the butterflies and fireflies, and the burning horses and the flaming trees, as a spiral of children climb up to the sun, waving goodbye to you and goodbye to me. I could go on and on and on, but really I'm only on track 4, and you can just even look by the titles of these songs that they have themes of nature. You have bright horses, night raid, sun forest, fireflies. The list goes on. And I like that the theme is consistent throughout the entire album. I think that's one of the best qualities of Nick Cave, is that he's very consistent. A lot of the tracks on the first disc are about 4 minutes, 5 minutes in length, and they're very similar to one another. A spacey kind of sound with maybe some string work into it. You have Nick Cave speaking over this ambient kind of soundscape. This all builds up to the second disc, and the first track, Ghosteen. This is a very anthemic and a very loud song in context to the record. It's in your face, it's bold, and you see Nick Cave singing in such a beautiful way. The hook on this thing is very catchy. It's been stuck in my head all day. And I wish that all of the songs were this anthemic. I wish they were all like this. Not the length. It is a pretty long song. It's 12 minutes, but it's not the longest. That goes to Hollywood, which in my opinion is very long and drawn out. I don't like how it ends the album. I think it just kind of ends it on a very sleepy note. It just makes me forget the song as a whole. I really can't tell you a lot of what's on this song in particular because it's not really all that memorable. The 3-minute spoken word track in between Ghosteen and Hollywood song Fireflies is a very interesting track. It's not one of the best on the album, but it's still very metaphoric in its right. Star is just a memory of a star. We are fireflies pulsing dimly in the dark. A lot of metaphors. I could probably make like a 2-hour video just dissecting every song on this album. I don't want to waste your time. I'm not going to waste my time, so we're just not going to do that. While I can appreciate what's on this album, I have to say that a lot of what's on this album sounds dated. It sounds like synthesizer work that's been done already. It sounds very rudimentary. It sounds very simplistic. And for a Nick Cave album, I would expect a lot of work gone into this. So I do commend him for the strings section and the songwriting and his performance as a vocalist. It's impeccable. It's incredible. But the synthesizer work, it needs work. It needs work. Nick Cave as a perfectionist, I think that he didn't perfect the work on this album to a certain degree. A lot of what's on this album is great, but I can't get the feeling out of me that the more I listen to this, the more it just gets old. It's not going to be very refreshing to come back to because it's very samey. You kind of expect everything this album has to offer. It's not predictable in the sense, but it isn't exciting. It isn't new. It's just a Nick Cave album. While people who love Nick Cave will appreciate what this album has to offer, I don't see like casual listeners of music appreciating this album in the long term. And that's upsetting because a lot of people love this album. A lot of people are raving about this album. But with all that said and done, I find myself in this weird position where I can appreciate the album, but I can't absolutely love it with all of my heart. It's an impressive album. It's an impressive feat. It's a different stylistic change from what Nick Cave has been doing this entire time, but I think it makes it a little more interesting as the album. But again, the synthesizer work sounds dated. A lot of the production sounds very rudimentary and simplistic. I wish there was more bite to this album. I just wish there was more. If all of the songs had like a Ghosteen appeal and maybe galleonship appeal to it, then I'd appreciate it more. But as of now, I see this album not really holding up after a while, and unfortunately, it's just not something I would come back to as often as other albums. I still appreciate it for what it is, I still like it, and I will still root for it at the end. I'll give this album a B+. And with that said, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this album down below. Let me know what albums you want me to review next, and that is it. Leave a like, comment, share, do whatever you want. Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Ghosteen. Until next time.